Our presenter today is going to cover safe and effective response for communities, for the cohesive strategy, and what we're doing here in Hawaii, especially in Kauai and in Maui. The cohesive strategy goals within this session, parts to understand are that our goal is to improve our physical resources, both in water as well as in access for firefighters. We do this through a lot through our code. And so that's why we've pressed, especially hard on Maui, post-fire, on our fire code. We need to stick to it, we need to enforce it, and as we develop and we grow communities, we need to make sure that our code changes and is modernized along with our construction. The second thing is ensuring firefighters have the right equipment and training that they need. And I have not found any politicians yet that are against that. So we're very grateful and very honored to have the support of everybody in the fire service. You know, the fire service and our work is very bipartisan, and everybody can get on board and really make sure that our firefighters have the tools at the state level, at the federal level, and at the county level to do the work they need to respond to communities. Third being developing management pre-plans for sensitive high-risk areas. That starts with identifying the high-risk areas. We've worked with HWMO for many, many years, identifying where ignitions are, where the high-risk areas are based on topography, fuel, weather, and all those things. And once we can create the risk maps, then we can create pre-plans for that area. And then lastly, conducting pre-fire multi-jurisdictional coordination and planning. That's what we're here doing. We're starting that here, we're doing that as a group in this building, and then you heard it several times throughout the day, all the other agencies and teams that are doing it in their counties and the state. This has been a very witnessed and heightened thing since the 2023 fires, both on the Big Island and in Maui. And we're seeing collaboration that we have not seen in the last 20 years. And so that's an extremely good place to be for our state. Not only is it the fire people talking about fire, but it's the planning people talking about fire. It is the support of everybody who now understands that they have a role in this. And if any of you are worried that you're going to overplan or make things so safe that firefighters don't have job security, don't have to worry about that. We got lots of work. There's a lot of people in this world that keep us busy. And it's not only fires, but it's everything else we respond to. So the more we can do on the front end, the first two goals, the more we can do to prepare our communities, to prepare our community members, as well as the built environment, the less we're going to have to get into response. But a lot of times when we talk about it, we talked about this earlier, you know, prevention isn't always the sexy part of the world, but, you know, response and flashing, you know, fire trucks and going out and dealing with fires can be. But man, if we don't have to do that, that's going to be a major improvement to our ecosystem, to our economy, to the way we live life. You know, we heard about it earlier this morning about the camps in Kauai and the old housing camps. Once you lose those things, they don't come back. And that's what we're dealing with in Lahaina. The old Lahaina may never be seen again. And so we need to do everything we can to prevent this. But when we cannot prevent it and we do get you know, through and past those two first goals and the third goal has to step into place, then effective response is really important. So I'm introducing Kevin Roach to come speak to you all for the next 25 minutes or so. He's going to somehow cram 40 years of experience into 25 minutes. Kevin, as he mentioned yesterday, retired from Phoenix Fire in 2014 with 25 years of service there. He retired as the assistant to the fire chief, and he has extensive experience in their planning, logistics, organization, training. And what that offered him was a consulting role and partnership with a company called Facets, who both Kauai Fire Department and Maui Fire Department have been using to work on a couple of projects. Along that journey that he's been on, in 2015 he received a Memorial Award from the Everett Hubert Memorial Foundation, which was an Outstanding Achievement Award for fire service training. So his time in Phoenix, his time with Facets, the education, his travel, all that he's done, he's brought to us here in Hawaii. We're very grateful to have him. He's worked on other projects with us, along with FSRI, and now he's working with Kauai and Maui on our standards of cover, which defines the way we respond to the community's needs. But the way we determine that is the other two plans, which is a community risk assessment and a community risk reduction plan. And once we identify what the risks are in the community, and it's not only wildfire, it's all the other hazards, then we can understand how we need to respond to them. So without further ado, 40 years and 25 minutes here, Kevin Roach.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here, for sticking in. I know only the prettiest and smartest students stay till the end of the day, so I want to just make sure that might be the best introduction I've ever had from anyone. I hope someone taped it so I can play it for my wife when I get home. I want to say something again that I said yesterday, and that's how special this gathering is. I can't think of any place else in the country where there's such a diverse set of stakeholders, not just the fire department involved in these conversations. The program you've had today, I sat through all of them, has been amazing. I learned a bunch of different things from it, including some really simple things that I would have never thought of to solve some of the problems that we all face. So, again, my name is Kevin Roach. I'm retired from the fire department in Phoenix. You don't need any more of my introduction. We've been very lucky. What an honor it is to be introduced by Chief Ventura. After the tragedies of the 2023 fires, he and his firefighters were completely open to the efforts to analyze the fire that FSRI did. I was proud to be part of that team, and also under Derek's leadership, also on the Los Angeles team. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, as she said, the third section of that chart, not to minimize at all the importance of the first two, because as I said yesterday, if you didn't hear me, we can't fight our way out of these fires. We have to work together to prevent them as much as we can. And as Chief Ventura said, I know Chief Gibson would agree, there's plenty of business for the fire department. We don't need big wildland fires. So the analysis that we're conducting in Hawaii and in Maui is called a standards to cover. And we're also doing an analysis called a community risk assessment. I'll go into details on all three of these, and then community risk reduction planning. What we're really trying to do is be the analysis team from out of town that can help the fire department look at their problems or look at their situation. Sometimes when you work inside of a system for so long, you don't know what other opportunities there are, or you're just set in your ways of doing things. So it's an opportunity for an outside set of eyes to come in and have a look at the fire department, make suggestions on what you're doing currently, and then also look at alternative resource deployment methods. Just a little bit about Facets. I won't dwell on this. We've been in this business for 20 years. My business partner is Adam Teal. Was the fire commissioner in Philadelphia. He bumped his head, and now he's the city manager, or the managing director of the city of Philadelphia. Really good guy. Just don't tell him I said that. So we've done work for a lot of different government agencies, a lot of different communities across the country. We think we're the only consulting company that we're kind of seen as a neutral arbiter. We don't take labor side all the time. We don't take management side all the time. So we're seen as neutral arbiters as we come to communities. So the first analysis we're doing is called a standard to cover. It looks mostly at the response resources of the fire department. It looks at the data that the fire department has, typically from their dispatch system, about where fires are occurring, where emergency medical calls are occurring, where areas are growing and where demand might grow. And then it uses computerized tools to analyze that deployment data and project it in a way that community leaders can understand it better. Our business is all you know. All of our little sub-businesses is way too complex for a politician to take in a lot of information and understand it. So what we try and do is boil it down into a package that can be understood by political leadership, and frankly give the fire chief the tools that he or she needs to go to the political leadership in their community and ask for the resources that they need. I'm going to get a bottle of water so you don't have to listen to my mouth click. I'm not going to glove it like Marco Rubio did. So we use two tools. We use a static modeling system, and the static modeling system basically looks at where are the firehouses in the community, how are they staffed, where can they get within 4 minutes, within 8 minutes. If every unit was in the station, no one was out on a call, that's what the deployment in the community would look like. Fortunately or unfortunately, the fire departments in Hawaii are busy. They're not just sitting in the station waiting for the call to come. They're either out on another call, or they're out doing some other community activity, or just inspections or shopping for groceries. So what we use another tool to analyze, exactly, it pretends that it's a dispatch system. It looks at the first call of the year, dispatches the resources to it, and it just goes through. This tool also allows us to move fire stations, to add fire stations, to move units around, to increase staffing on units that may be short-staffed according to national standards. And this is all done according to a process that's laid out in NFPA 1710, what used to be NFPA 1710. So what we're trying to do is give the community an outside look at what the deployment coverage is in the community. And Hawaii is unique. Most of your main roads are perimeter roads around the island, so it makes it difficult to get from A to B on the island. I hope this slide shows up okay. What we try and do is boil this all down into packages or images that can be consumed more easily. So the two images you see on the left, and I apologize for the colors, but the more green, the better. So if we modeled adding an engine to this community, the response in this community, to see how much it improved a response, and it's all in certain areas. And politicians are not always all that altruistic. If we can show that changing a unit or moving a unit is going to help service in their particular district or their area, they're much more interested in the conversation than not. So what this results in is we're able to look at a very granular level. For example, again, the graph on the left, the pink is before resources added, and the purple or the blue is after resources added in terms of time, response time graduated out by 30-second increments. You can see that their bars are almost equal, so that basically demonstrates there's no big impact in adding that particular unit in the place that we were talking about. So it allows the community to make a decision, or it allows the fire chief to make a decision about whether or not he wants to proceed. And the graph at the right looks at a unit hour utilization. That's a measure of how busy a unit is. There's no real standard on it, but if they're busy more than 40% of the time, then an additional unit needs to be added to help cover that area. Because if a fire occurs in one station's first due, or their primary area, they're already out on another call 40% of the time. So that's not a very high level of assurance, so we want to make sure we put more resource there. Community risk assessment is relatively rarely done. I really congratulate Kauai and Maui for performing this test. It's an assessment, again, with outside eyes on the risks that are in a community. We've done these assessments in other locations that didn't have a whole lot of risk, but Hawaii's got them all. You've got tsunamis, earthquakes, lava flows, wildfires, so you've got them all. So what we do is we use data from the fire department again on their responses, but then we pair that data up with data from other sources, sometimes federal, demographic data, and any source that we can find, university data, and then we do crosstabs among them, looking for significant guidance from the data itself about how to improve safety, not just fire safety in the community, but certainly fire safety as well. We also do field surveys where we go out and put our own eyes on the community to make sure that we see with our own eyes what the risks are. It also helps a lot more explaining it to the fire department at the end of the process. So, I must be pressing the wrong button. I am pressing the wrong button. So if you look at the map on the left, you can see that the dots are higher activity, and the colors grading from green up through orange to red show the percent of renter-occupied structures. So what comes through on this map, and we can portray it to the politicians, is that the more renter-occupied homes or the more renter-occupied residences, the more risk of fire there is. So that may guide the fire department to concentrate their fire prevention efforts in those areas. That's just one example. The last part of our process is community risk reduction planning. This is a much more interactive process. We present the results of the standards of cover analysis and the community risk analysis to members of the public. We do it in a few different ways. We do surveys of the public. You may have seen the cards on those two islands, or seen them in restaurants or whatever. We ask people to go online and complete a survey about their safety experience. Do you have a smoke alarm in your home? Have you changed the battery in the last 1,000 years? Have you ever had a fire? If you had a fire, did you call the fire department? And one of the interesting things we find is that many people have fires in their homes or in their businesses, and they put them out, and they don't call the fire department because they've got it out. And many times they're right about that, but sometimes they're wrong, and it's gotten in the walls or something like that. So I think just by its nature, the number of fires reported to the fire department is a big understatement of the total number of fires that are found. Toward the end of that process, and coming up later in May and in June on these two islands, we're going to do community workshops, similar in a way to what you guys are, but we're not looking for necessarily experts. We're looking for just regular members of the community to come in and talk to us about what their perception of safety is, and then what the best way to communicate with them is. The world has changed. Sending emails to people doesn't necessarily work anymore. Sending a 30-minute video for them to watch about fire safety, not so much. So we're trying to respond to those changes in the community as well. I think I'm now at about 45 minutes. Have I been on 45 minutes? No. I'm running out of things to say. All right, so one of the most important things we do in this workshop is we allow people to express their opinions. We get them down on paper. We could, if we didn't have the Post-it note, we would not be allowed to have these workshops. You can see there's multiple colors and a million Post-it notes. So what we try and do is boil all that down into some feedback from the community. It's a very powerful tool for the fire chief and for the fire department to go back to their political leadership and say, hey, here's some outside folks that have identified these issues within our system. Here's how the community feels about it, and here's some ways to fix it. So the very last part of the third step is to identify and make recommendations on how the fire department might be more effective in assuring the safety of the community. It may be adding a resource to the fire department. It may be adding a little bit more staff to the fire department. It may be inspections, or it might be a public education campaign that's targeted on the populations that we've identified. I'm talking over the top. All right, thank you so much for your time.